Hi guys, you are welcome to another episode of the Microsoft Power BI for Business Intelligence course series. In the previous lessons, we have dived into the world of business intelligence, understanding its core concepts, significance, and applications. We also introduced ourselves to the Power BI interface and we created our first report, right? Our inaugural report. In this lesson, we'll explore the heart of data transformation using Power Query, an essential skill in Power BI and Excel. Let's dive right in. Power Query is a powerful data transformation and preparation tool that is part of Microsoft Excel, and it's also available in other Microsoft products like Power BI and SQL Server integration services. It allows users to connect, import, and transform data from various sources into a format that is suitable for analysis and reporting. Power Query simplifies the process of cleaning, shaping, and combining data from different sources, maybe Excel or Dataverse or even external data sources. It makes it an essential tool for data analysis, business intelligence professionals, and anyone dealing with data manipulation. You know how we like to do it at the Rookie Analyst course series. We like to go practical. So for our participant, you can access the dataset that is being used for all practicals and hands-on in the LMS. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can download the dataset from the description. Let's dive right in. So this is the dataset that we'll be transforming with Power Query and Power BI. So it is a sales data. It has a customer name, the order ID, the product, customer ID, unit sold, date, rev. We don't know what that rev means. Probably it's revenue, right? Cost and days of the week. So as you can see, this data is not properly curated. It has some empty spaces and some data that are not accurate, and we need to clean this data. So this data sets was manually created. They are not real data. And Tip Top Taste Restaurant, as you already know, it's not in existence. So we just created this for the sake of this course series. Also in this workbook, we have another worksheet which has the customer info. That's the customer name, their IDs, the address, the branch, and then the region, right? Also, we have another data set, which is the third data set, and this data set just carries the branch info. That is the number of customers in each of the branch. So let's head over to Power BI Desktop. In case you've not installed Power BI Desktop, the best way for you to get Power BI Desktop is just by going to the Microsoft Store. So once you search for Microsoft Store, you open Microsoft Store and then you search for Power BI Desktop and then you install right away. You can refer to the previous videos on how to install and getting started with Power BI. So you just search for Power BI Desktop, Power BI Desktop app. So I already have it installed here, so I'll just open it right away. Once you open your Power BI, this is what you see. So the beauty of Power BI is that it has get data everywhere, meaning you can connect to data sources from different you can connect to data sources in different ways. So here we just have to close this, and then you can see here we have get data here. And remember, this is the pane. There's a filter pane, visualization pane, and the data pane. Right now we don't have any data inside this, so we want to get data into Power BI. But before we get our data into Power BI, we have to transform it. This is where we'll be building relationship. Right now you can see there's no any data set, so no any relationship that has been built. So now let's get data into Power BI. So the first thing I would like to mention is that you can get data sets into Power BI from different sources. As you can see here, we have the Power BI data set, we have the web, if it's the text or CSV. So it's important for you to know the format in which your data set is. So imagine you're browsing the internet, maybe you're just checking Wikipedia and you saw some tables on Wikipedia and you want to get that tables from Wikipedia to Excel or to Power BI for analysis or visualization. All you need to do is just to copy the link of the dataset, of the link, the Wikipedia link, and then you paste here. And once you paste and you click OK, and then you'll be able to import your dataset. But here we are not importing from a URL. We already have our dataset in Excel workbook. So we click on Excel workbook here. So once you click on this Excel workbook, you navigate to the folder where your data where your data set has. So here we have our two data sets that we've just previewed in Excel earlier. So we have the first one here, which is the Power BI query data set, and the other one is the branch info. So we're going to click on this first one here, the Power BI query data set. So let's click open and see what comes up next. So in a couple of seconds, it gets connected. And as you can see here, we have all our data sets here, right? Power Queries allows you to import multiple data sets, either in the same workbook or separate workbook. So I can see from our data set here, we have the sales data, which is, and also the customer info and also the branch info. So all we need to do is to select. Once you click on this, it shows you a preview of the data, and you can see it has a lot of null value. And then column one, the headers are not properly arranged. So we're going to fix all of this in Power Query. So if you want to import multiple data sets, you could just click all of these data sets here. So I'm just going to select these two, the sales data and then the customer info. The branch info, we have it also in another Excel workbook. So now all we need to do, right, if it's a clean data, you just click on load and then it appears here in the data pane of your Power BI. But because this data are not clean, we want to transform this data. So we're going to click on transform data. And this takes us to the Power Query editor. So before we start cleaning our data, so I'd just like to introduce us to the key features of the Power Query editor. So right here now you have your queries on this left hand, the left side here. So the queries shows you all the datas or all your connectors, like the data sets you are connected to or the data sets you've imported. Right now we have our sales data, which are in form of tables, and also the customer info. That's what we've connected to. Another important features is the applied steps. So in Power Query, whatsoever you do in a Power Query, when you remove a column or you add a column or you do any form of calculations, it appears here in the applied steps. And if you want to undo it, you can just click on this and then it undoes whatsoever you've done. So we're going to see how we're going to do this in the future, and then it allows you to also refresh your data set. So because I've opened this data set before, so it's telling me that, oh, this preview may be up to 2 days old. So just close this right away. So now the next three most important things about the key Power Query interface is we have the home tab here. So this home tab here, it allows you to do a lot of things here. It allows you to, if you want to remove the rows, you can just click on this and then you're going to remove either the top rows or the bottom rows. We're going to make use of this. And you could also remove columns from this home tab. You could refresh your preview. You could use it to manage parameter, and you could use this enter data to add data to this. So you don't have to go back to your Excel to add data to this. If you have, maybe there's a missing data, you just have to enter the data here. So it also allows you to connect to different sources. So, and then you could merge your queries. You could use it to split a column. Imagine you have a column that has first name and second name in one column, and you want to split into another column to have first name and surname, or you want to split email addresses from their domain. For instance, tiptophamza@TheRookieAnalyst.com. You want to split tiptophamza from TheRookieAnalyst. Remember, in our Excel class, we use formulas to do this, but instead of the formula, you could just make use of the split column here. So you could just make use of the split column, and then you select what parameters you want to split from. Do you want to split by delimiter? And we all know what delimiter is. That means, is it space separated, comma separated, or hyphen separated, or what have you? Or you want to split by number of characters, just the same thing as you have with your in Excel, you have formulas that dot, or you want to split by positions, or you want to split by lowercase or uppercase. So whatsoever it is, with Power Query, we can just do 1, 2, 3, 4 clicks, and then you've done steps, you've processed data that normally will have take you a couple of formulas and then tasking your brain for you to do. The next is the transform. So this transform allows you to replace values. You can use it to unpivot columns. You could even use it to extract length. Remember, like this length, right? Return the length of the text in a selected column. This is just the same thing as the len in Excel, the len formula in Excel. You could use it to also run R script or Python script. That's for those that are programmers. So it's a really powerful tool. Then the other thing I'll also key feature here is the add column. So the add column allows you to do a lot of customization. So remember the if statement that we did in Excel. So here you could just add column more like writing an if statement. But here, the only difference is that you don't have to write the if statement yourself. All you need to do is just to select, know what you want to do, and then you can easily do it here without trying to trying to write the functions or formulas yourself in Excel. So Power Query is literally powerful. And another beautiful thing I like about Power Query Editor is the fact that you can audit a data. So usually the challenges you're going to face with data analysis is how to clean your data or what data to clean. How do you identify the dirty part of it? Other than this null value, there are other dirty data that you will not be able to, like here now we have data that are really not clean. For instance, now this is Chidi, right? It's written with a small, the first letter C here is small, while here it's capital letter. So these are, if you want to visualize your data, is going to show as different. So you need to align all of this in a simple format. So these are some of the things that you can do with Power Query. So now with the Power Query editor, you can check how you can profile your data set. For instance, now click on the view button, and this is where we're going to start our hands-on, right? So we click on the view button, and then once you click on the view button and you select the column quality, it shows you a preview of what is in the data. Maybe the dirty data. Here it tells you that 90% are valid, while there are 1% empty data. And once you click this, it automatically remove empty values here, but we are not going to use this. We're going to do it other way. And another thing about Power Query is that if there's any particular thing you want to do in Power Query, there are multiple ways for you to do it. So now also on the view part, if you click on the column profile, for instance, it shows you the column profile here. But instead of the column profile, I prefer to use the column distribution, so that it's just going to show at the top here. So just below this, so the column description just show you how you can see once you put your mouse over it, it gives you an overview of maybe a distinct and then the unique value, the percentage, and all of that. But the most important thing I want you to pay attention to is this particular green bar here. So this green bar, you notice there's a gray bar here. This short gray bar here tells you how dirty your data is. So this dirty data here is just two data that are probably empty, less than 1%. So by the time we're done cleaning, you notice that this green bar becomes full, meaning it is 100% clean, right? So let's start. The first thing, I'm going to take this up now so you could see clearly. So I'm just going to take this up, and I'm going to take this off also. So the first thing you notice is that this is our headers. We have customer name here at what? Row number 2. So we have this appearing as the header. That's from the Excel, if you recall here, just as we have in our Excel here. So you can see Tip Top Taste Restaurant and all of this. So this is what is appearing as the header in Power BI. So but we want to first deal with that first. So how do we deal with that? You just come to the Home tab, and then the easy thing, just click on it, use first row as headers. And once you click this, it promotes the next data in the row. It promotes that header and automatically remove the one above. As you can see here now, the Tip Top Taste Restaurant sales data 20 is gone, and we have the next thing here, which is what data created by the Rookie Analyst as the header. But that's not what we want to make to be the header. We want this to be the header. So we still go back to the home here, and we click on use first row as headers. And now we have our headers, which are properly as we wanted it. And take notes now, this we have a promoted headers, promoted header. We did it twice. So promoted headers 1, promoted headers 2, because we did it what twice. Next is, this is rev, but instead of rev, it is revenue. We want to write it fully. So once we edit this in Power Query, all you need to do is just double click on this. And once you double click on it, and you just type whatever you want to type, and then you click on OK. So next, the next thing I would like to show us is right here. We can see that we have a lot of unknown values here. And also you can see this, since this data were curated, so you can see from multiple months, from January to December is the 2022 sales data, so for the 12 months. So probably in the course of copying and pasting, this person was also copying the header of maybe this is just for month January to maybe January month, and then while copying the month of other data, it also copies the header, and you want to remove all of this. But before then, you have a lot of empty spaces. So now you can see this null is all through. It cuts across all the columns, meaning that it's an empty space everywhere, and you want to remove this. How do you remove this? All you need to do is just come over here, click on this drop down menu. That's one way to remove it, and you see remove empty. And once you click on this remove empty, it automatically removes the null values. As you can see, all the null values that we see here, the empty spaces is gone. But there's still some values that are null, but not cutting across all the columns, just in specific columns. So we're going to see how we're going to deal with that. So that's one. Another thing I would like to mention is that in Power Query, you can see this column now is just an empty column, which we don't need, right? So if you don't need this column, you want to delete it, just select the column, highlight the column by just left click, then you right click, and then you could see um, a lot of options. So usually once you right click in Power Query, it gives you available options or options that are applicable, and it also shows you additional options, like for instance change type. If you want to change it from text to number, we just have to do this here. But what we want to do is I want to remove it because that's not what we want. It's an empty column which we don't need. So you click on remove and it's gone, and you see here it shows remove. But let's assume you remove that by mistake. All you need to do is just to click on this X here, and then from this apply step, and it comes back. Yeah, but it's not a mistake, so we're going to do it again just to remove it. So we come over here and then we'll click on remove. So next here is that our data is beginning to take shape, right? So you can see now here we have this showing 100%, meaning there is no empty value here. Let's try to check it back, show our column quality. This showing 100% because we've removed the empty spaces. But that is not enough. This column is still not clean because we have this customer name here, right? And then what we have to do here is that we want to remove this. So the next thing we're going to do is we come over to home here. So still on this data, you can just click on this drop down, but instead of remove empty, we're going to come to text filters. So we come to does not equal to. So look at what we have here is customer name, right? And you can also do it on other columns, maybe other ID. So does not equal to what? We're just going to type does not equal to customer name, and whatever there's customer name here is going to remove it. So we click on this, okay, and then customer name, you can see it's gone. And we have this customer name in even other places too, and it automatically removes it. As you can see here from in your Excel here, we have customer name here, we also have customer name here, and then I think we should still have it one more place again, I think. Okay, that's all. We have it just in two places. So by using that in Power Query, it removes it. So this is clean. So but when we look at this particular data here, it's still not, this is not yet clean. We probably still have a null value or an empty space here that we want to deal with, as you can see here. So we have null values here. We still have null values here, so that's why these ones are not okay. So this null values that we're seeing here, they are at the bottom of this row. So the another feature you could use here under the home, on the home tab in Power Query, is for you to just remove rows. So you can remove the top rows, you can remove the bottom rows. For instance, when we're promoting our headers, we could just remove the top rows, and automatically the third row becomes the header. But that's another way for you to do. Like I said, there are multiple ways for you to do anything in Power Query. But here we want to remove the bottom rows. So but we need to know the bottom rows. Is it the last two? You can see here we want to remove these two because they're not just the dirty data. So probably a typo from whosoever created the data for tip top taste restaurant. So what we need to do here is come over to home here, and then we come to remove rows and then bottom rows. So since it's the last two rows, we type 2 here and we click OK, and it automatically it's off. So when you come down here, you see that has it has taken effect. So you can see that it has taken effect, so it's no longer there anymore. So the next thing we want to do to clean this data is, let's see what other thing we want to do. Usually I like to just have we could notice that, for instance, now some letters, first letter here, chili here, is written with small letter c while it's capital letter C. So I like to have it uniform. So I like to have uniform data. So what I just do is just to come over here, click on this, and then right click, and then you could just change transform your data. And once you want to transform the data, you just to make everything uppercase, just make it easy, right? So we'll click uppercase and this changes. So now there's a chance that there's a space, maybe like here. Now one of the data has space, so what I do also is just to right click again, click on this, right click, and then transform, and then we trim. Remember the trim function we use in our Excel class, right? So here you just click on trim, and once you click on this trim, it removes the spaces. So I will just come over here and just still do the same thing here. So you just keep doing, you do the same thing here, transform, and then we'll make this uppercase, and then everything is in uppercase. So by that we ensure that we don't miss out, and then we also trim this also. So our data is taking shape. So what else do you want to do here for us to clean this particular data? So let's come over here. Now we notice that there's a null value here, there's a null value here. So this is revenue, and then this is costs, right? So when you look at this, sometimes as a data analyst, you have to make a decision. So you have to determine if a data is good or not. So for instance, here we have Bingham bought fries, but it has a date, but no revenue and there's no cost. And then there's no date. So this probably just an error. And then maybe he made that particular, maybe he made that order again, and then it's a duplicate. So if you're convinced like this is a duplicate, then you deal with it by just deleting this. We can select this, and then just you can just remove this particular null value here. So and how do we do it? We could just come over here, we could just do the same thing we do here, select here, and then remove empty, and then it takes out the null value, right? And you could as well just select that particular row and then delete that particular row. But now the thing is, you still check around, you probably have other null values. From here we can see here, now we have another null values here. This is clean now because we removed the empty, but this is not clean. So let's check this here. So you check this out. Another easy way for you to just see the null values, you can just click on this place and you do this on select all, and then you select the null, and then you see the details that are actually null here. So when you look at this null, it's just the days of the week that is not included, right? But at the same time, you have every other details that is correct. So you can see here it is 2,400, 3,000. So that means this is probably accurate data. It's just the date of the week that is missing. So let's assume you've agreed that, okay, this date of the week, this is not a daily data, you want to keep this data. And the days of the week that is there is just Mondays, right? It's Mondays that those two orders were made. So all you need to do is just come over to right click on it, and then you try to replace value. So when you want to replace value, you tell it what you want it to find. So just for you to look for null, and then replace it with what? Replace it with Monday, the day that it was sold, for instance. And it has advanced options, right? Which should match entire cell or replace using special characters. So depending on the need, you apply what is applicable. So we click on this OK here now, and you see that we will no longer see the null values because they've been replaced by Monday. So is our data clean now? Yeah. To a large extent, our data is super clean right now. So we have this. So let's check this other column. Is there anything here that needs to be done? As you can see here now, this here, Kaduna, Lagos, and then this is written as lag. So probably it's lag is still Lagos because the address here is Lagos. So we have to make this uniform. I want to write this uniform. So how do you think you can do this best? So there are many ways you can deal with this in Power Query, but because we want to touch some of the key features that we've already explained earlier, so I'm going to try to use the add column here, right? So we've tried to use the home, everything, all the features in home to clean the first data, which is the first table, the sales data. So we're going to use the add column to just deal with this. Then we're going to use the transform to deal with the third data, which is the branch info. So this one here, right, it's the branch. So what we need to do is we want to write want to add a column. Click on add column. Then it's going to be a conditional column. So remember your if statement. So you can right away name your column if you want to name it, but if you like, you can just leave it and name it afterward, right? So I want to name it branch because I want to take out what is there before, so I'm going to leave it as custom, then later on I'll delete. So the first thing you need to do is if what is the column that you want to work on. So we want to work on the branch column, right? So we click on this and then we select our branch. So the operator is equal to, so if branch is equal to lag, right, what should it write? What should it output? If it is equal to lag, and then it should output what? Lagos. So we are just saying that it should change this. So this okay, right? So now let's just do this. But the thing is, if you do this, it's going to correct just the lag, but it won't correct others. So that means you need to still add another clause to the conditional function. So let's take this out and then let's come back here and then we do it again here. So it's just like, you remember the nested functions that we do in Excel, like a function in a function, like if in an if, or if in a sum, or sum in if, depending on what you want to do. So this is what we're doing here. So now we select our branch equal to here, we have our lag here, and then we want to replace it with Lagos, right? Then we add another clause. So we want to replace it with Lagos. So we have another clause here. So in the clause we have else if the same branch does not contain, right, does not equal to lag, then you should output, instead of writing what we want it to output, we will now want it to, we want it to output whatsoever. We want to select a column, right? We want it to output whatsoever. So you just select this, change it from enter a value to select column, and then you select what, the branch. So it's going to output whatsoever it's in that branch. So once we click on this, okay, now we now have, you can see those empty null values are no longer empty. Now we have Lagos all true. But this is still not clean enough, because we have here Lagos started with capital letter L, and then here we have Lagos started with small letter L. So what are we going to do? Just come over here. So just still here. So just select here, and then we right click, and then we come over to our transform, and it will make everything uppercase. With that, we know that we don't miss out on anything. So this particular column is clean now. So we no longer need this anymore. So all we need to do is just to right click on this, and then we click on what, remove, and then remove. If you want to copy, you can as well copy a column and then paste, and then you could do a lot of other things. So the beauty of Power Query is that depending on what you want to do will determine the feature you will use. So I usually advise you try to just explore, just, you have a data set that you can just use, just try anything, just try to explore, okay, what is this feature about, what is this feature. But if there's any particular feature you're confused in and you want us to work with, please reach out to us via our DM, or you leave a comment on this YouTube channel, and definitely we'll get back to you. So now I want to rename this, because we've taken out the branch, and I want to call this branch, right? So now the next thing here is the region here. So this region here is really not needed, right? Because it's dirty, it's clean. But I felt like, okay, there's already another data set here that we're going to import that already have regions and the number of customers and all of that. So if I feel I don't need that, so I could just come over here, and then we could just delete the region, or better still, we could clean it. So how do we clean it? We could just replace um we could just replace some of these things. We'll just correct some of this data. So here we're going to stop with this data set. So the next thing I would like to show you is this file here. So this file allows you to, under this file tab, is to close and apply. You can apply and all of that, but most of the things you need here, they are also in the tab. So we need now is that we are done with our data set, it's complete. So all we need to do is just close and apply. And once you click on close and apply, then it's load, you can see it's loading the data into our Power BI, and it's complete. So you can see here changes. Now we have our data sets, and once you have our data sets, we can start visualizing. And if there's anything you want to analyze further, we can also start adding columns here with DAX, or by creating functions right here, or even creating additional columns in Power Query, which we're going to see in subsequent lessons. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to import another data from an entirely Excel workbook. What we've seen so far is importing data from multiple sheets in a particular Excel workbook. Now I want to add another data to this, which is our branch info. So the branch info data, which is this data here, the branch info data has the number of customers in each of the region and in each of the branch, and then it has the region that these branches are in. So you can see here now. So what we need to do is we're going to import this data set. So we come back to our Power BI, still come to get data. So It's an Excel workbook. Remember, you need to know the format in which which your data set is in. So you click on Excel workbook. So this is our branch info data. We click on the branch info data, and once we click on OK, it opens. Yeah, do we need? Is there anything we need to clean on it? Definitely yes. I want to show you something here. You can see this Kaduna, Lagos, Delta, Benue, Abuja. So we want to turn this columns. So we want to unpivot this column so that this columns here we want to transform it to something else. Just look at how it appears here. So we select it here. This is how it appears. So we want it to be in a format that this Kaduna, Lagos, and Delta uh, should be in rows and not a column. So they will be under one particular column. So that means we end up having just two columns in this data, which is going to be one column here, which is going to be the region, and the second column is going to be the branch, and Kaduna and all of those things probably will be under it or something. So let's just see how it works. So we're going to transform this data. So now once we want to start, we will allow it to load. So this is our Power Query. It has loaded. We have it here. So now another thing you notice is that it has the data is still not having the region Kaduna Lagos. It's actually our headers. We need to promote this. So same way, come to home, use first rows as headers. So and then you see it has been promoted. So usually it's one of the most used feature when you just dealing with a dirty data from Excel, because usually they will have headers and all of that. So now the next thing we want to do is that you can see here, I would like to point out something to you here. You notice everything here is green. So this auditing we mentioned earlier, it's usually to find empty spaces, right? So but there are many other things you would like to do. So here I'm just going to click on the view, column quality, and then we'll remove it. So because it's not needed here. So what we want to do next here is just to come over here now. We want to unpivot all of this. So to unpivot this, once you click on this column, you press the control button on your keypad, and then you select the next one, you select the next one, you select the next one, you select everything, and you can as well drag. You can just select again and highlight all of it. So what we want to do is we want to transform this. So we click on unpivot columns, and once we click on unpivot columns, it unpivoted for us. So it automatically changes it to region. Here becomes an attribute and a value. So this attribute here becomes what? Our branch. So and then this value here becomes the number of customers. Number of customers. So this unpivoting make our data set to be in a better format for visualization and even for analysis, right? Compared to what we look at this here now, compared to what we have previously here. So as this does not consume space, but look at this. So this our data here now is also clean, and we are already cool with it. So we can as well import this data. We can import this data set into our Power BI. So we close and we apply. And once we do this, it's our Power BI opens. So we have our data here. But remember, the sheet here is just telling you sheet 1 because it's not named. So we can as well do a lot of things we want to do here. We want to rename. So let's rename this, and we call this branch info. We call this branch info. So these are 3 data sets. So imagine here now, this is our model view, which is where you build relationship. So the beauty of Power BI is that it automatically builds relationship for you. So you can see, and once you hover your mouse over here, so this where you build, this is, you can see it's model view. So this is where data models are built. It's just all about relationships. So it simply means that it looks at one table and looks at the other table and see what do they have in common. So it automatically detects for you. Sometimes you may have to do this manually, right? So you can see here now, once you hover your mouse, it tells you the kind of relationship. So this is what you can see. This is customer, and then customer name, and this is customer name. It has detected it for you. So it simply means that you can now cross reports. So instead of visualizing or analyzing sales data separate, customer info separate, but so you can cross report them, so you can visualize something here, like maybe the cost here against maybe the branch or the region that it's not here. And the same thing, you can see it does the same thing here, because we have region here, we have region here. So this is just basically what data modeling is. But for the scope of this course, we won't go into details. But before we go, I would like to show us this here. So once you click on this now, it shows you the properties. So it tells you that this is a table, sales data, and it has a column called customer name. It tells you the cardinality. What kind of relationship is it? Is it many to one, one to one? And then it's connecting to what? To which table? That means this table here or dataset is connecting to another. That's the sales data is connecting to the customer's infos data, and they are connected by what? The customer name. So the customer name here is the primary key, and the one here is the foreign key. So that's how they get to connect. So once you click on this, you can also open the open relationship editor to edit the relationship if you want to. So the same thing here. So if you import multiple data set, you can even build this manually. If this is not there, you can build this manually by just, like, for instance, this is branch, you can just build this by dragging this to this. But that's how you can see now you create your relationship depending on this. But that's not the scope of this work. So this is where we're going to stop here, and the next episode we're going to visualize this data set, and then in subsequent lesson we're going to dive into public data sets. We're going to download data from a public database, and then we're going to clean, analyze, visualize, and then we're going to share our report um, we're going to share our reports to the power. We're going to publish the report to Power BI services. But remember, you will need the Power BI service license, Power BI online service license, for you to access the Power BI services. However, Power BI desktop is free. And don't forget the difference between Power BI desktop and Power BI services. Data modeling that we're doing right now, we can do it in Power BI services. And with Power BI services, collaboration sharing is easy. If you still want to know more about this, then you can just refer to the video, to the previous lesson on this. It's available on the YouTube channel here. It's also been already uploaded to the LMS session. And that's a wrap about Power Query here. If there's anything you would like us to cover further, or there's anything you needed help with, please leave it in the comment section, or you reach out to us DM if you are a participant of our courses. And see you in the next lesson.